3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hi, I'm Gabe.
And I'm Mike.
And we're part of the original Robot in 3 Days crew. We want to go over the best of the Robot in 3 Days for this year's game, Rapid React. We want to showcase everything that all these teams were able to put together in those 3 days and see what you can learn from it for this year's game.
We're going to go ahead and start by looking at intake mechanisms. This year's cargo is a little bit slick. This team used Velcro to actually get a little bit better grip. Pride of the North built a simple intake mechanism that has a narrow column and does not require any ball centering.
Kettering University used two styles of intakes for prototyping, traction wheels as well as mechanism wheels. Whereas with Zookeepers, they go ahead and they use mechanisms on the outside as well as the interior for their design.
We loved what we saw with the University of Minnesota. They actually used their bumpers and traction wheels to initially take that ball in. Then behind that is road mechanisms that center the ball.
When it comes to indexing, we realize that a lot of teams are going to spend a lot of time focusing on this. We believe that this is the secret sauce for a robot's success. If you're not able to get the ball from the ground, maneuver inside the robot to its respective shooter, you're not going to be able to have a good time or compete competitively with this year's game.
First, you're going to have to look at materials for your indexer. We saw a few teams work with polycord. We also saw an indexer using urethane that was welded together.
IUPUI is able to index their cargo accordingly. What they do is they actually have their first cargo go into their robot and wait, and it holds the ball in position as the second ball comes into the robot.
If you don't want to mess with polycord or belts, you can just go with a simple setup of wheels.
There's different styles of carrying the cargo into the goal, and here are some different prototypes.
We saw one team work with a catapult this year. It didn't work too well for them in terms of consistency, but it's something that you could probably look into and test further.
A majority of the teams that we saw this year use a flywheel design and were fairly consistent.
Again, keep in mind this year, the horizontal goal, it's a lot trickier to score into. Keep in mind, teams, it is going to be difficult to shoot into that upper hub every single time because it is horizontal.
Kettering uses Andy Mark's new lifter mechanism.
IUPI went ahead and modified the mechanism by extending the hook so that it would stabilize the robot further. We see that you actually only need one stage of the Andy Mark lifter to work with this year's game.
Whereas with the University of Minnesota, they had a single arm lifter that's able to trapeze their way across the bars.
It's able to get up to the high bar with a little bit of help. A little more time to prototype and they'd probably be able to do it without humans.
Zookeepers were able to use mechanism to be able to climb across the bars. They were able to use a two-stage system to be able to do this slow but steady.
Keep in mind, teams, this took them almost 25 seconds to get up to the high bar. Their mechanism can get all the way up to the traverse bar, but that's a lot of time.
One thing to keep in mind with this year's game with all the mechanisms involved is packaging. You want to make sure that you have enough room and real estate inside your robot to be able to do the tasks you want your robot to perform. Sometimes it's best to focus on one specific task and do that extremely well.
This year it's going to be easier to shoot into the upper hub, the cargo, if your shooter is up high. But if you go too high with it, you're actually going to have to spend time to go around the low bar to go to the mid bar to hang.
We noticed with IUPI, they kind of split the difference. They have their shooter sitting a little bit high, but just enough to go directly underneath the bar to make that first stage climb easier.
We've said this before, but it's worth repeating. You want to hit a ranking point every single time, so go for that lower hub sometimes if you need to get the 20 cargo in there.
One thing to keep in mind is time management. When it comes to traversing for the extra points with the climb, you have to decide whether it's advantageous for your style of robot, able to do that quickly enough, or if it's even faster to cycle through several cargo into the hub. Due to the pandemic, please keep in mind to be thoughtful with the supplies that you need. You may need to come up with a plan B in case suppliers run out of items. Because of the pandemic, there's a supply shortage, so don't rely on them to come through right away. You may need to be able to develop another system.
Some of the items that we've highlighted here are out of stock for the next couple of weeks. You may have to start looking at alternatives now. Teams were able to do a lot in 3 days. We were very impressed. You guys have several weeks to work on improving on these ideas.
We want you all to do better, so please look at these teams for inspiration and build upon that.
Good luck, teams, and remember, don't do everything at the last minute. Give your drivers some time to drive the robot. Let your programmers actually touch sensors on the robot.
We look forward to seeing what the teams come up with this year. Best of luck out there.
See you at the competition.